The lockdown due to COVID has had a major impact on everyone's daily lives, particularly those which are entirely based on gathering together, one of those being model railway clubs. While certainly not one of the most critical impacts of the pandemic, it is important not to underestimate the value of social interactions and the impact of their loss. In this video, I talked with the owner and some of the operators from the Onehouse Model Railway, based in Suffolk, to find out what they've done to continue enjoying their hobby together during lockdown.
My favourite bit of the railway is very much the electronics. I spent most of my career as an electronics and software engineer.
I think all of it, but it's underground Ernie. I like that. I enjoy it down there very much.
You can fall asleep.
Fall asleep. You can do that, yeah.
Not
but
that
the
any,
other part,
not
the
that
other
any
part
of us
of the
have fallen
railway.
asleep under there.
Yeah, many of us have. Yeah, but the other part of it is I like unbolting things. So the fun bit of the railway is maintaining all the models, keeping them going, taking them apart and putting them back together again.
Mm.
Oh, most definitely the shunting well. I could sit and shunt all day long. Put me in there, you won't hear from me again.
Ramming in as many people as you could get into a shed.
With a railway.
With a railway. And then try and run trains.
It worked very well. I'm quite surprised. On one occasion, we had 11 people in there,
Wow.
including the Gronk clip. On a normal bank holiday weekends, that's when we do have the get-togethers, Easter, Spring Bank Holiday and August Bank Holiday. And prior to COVID, we used to get as many people as we could here. I seem to remember the record was 15.
So we had lots of people descending. I mean, they came all from all over the country, didn't they?
Many places.
I'm from Bristol.
We had Ian coming down from Birmingham way. We got JP coming down from somewhere similar. We got Ben coming down from the northeast.
Robert coming from the lakes.
Robert coming from the lakes. So people come from all over the country, descending on the layout. And the bank holidays were kind of the main operations. And then we'd have some other sessions occasionally, and we'd have some stuff at the weekends. Mostly just myself and yourself, wasn't it, Dad? Because of the travelling logistics.
Well, we used to come down and assist with Pete about doing the maintenance. We had little maintenance tasks that we would try and achieve on a couple of days before we have a running session.
Yeah, basically engineering days prior to a running session.
So this is combinations of managing looking at the rolling stock, but also the railway as well. There's actually a couple of photographs that I found that of John John Chaddock looking at the various parts. I think it looks like he was looking at swapping points out in one of the areas there. So yeah, it's a good opportunity before the majority of people come down to work on the layout and do sort of more traditional modelling, I guess, and engineering and so forth before the weekend, which really is about playing primarily, isn't it?
Usually Rebecca helps out, is actually cleaning all the track with the motorised track cleaning machine.
So the railway's for quite a long time been possible to operate remotely, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But it's not been fantastic. John, I mean, you quite often were the person that was operating the layout remotely. How was it to operate remotely?
It was interesting. We did some original proving trials where I was actually in a hotel room in New York. And it did work, but the latency was quite poor. 11:30 Eastern at night, which is 4:30 in the morning in the shed. After that, I also did quite a lot of track cleaning remotely from Portsmouth. And again, it was okay as long as one person was on the cameras. So as you tried to connect another one, it just slowed down. You had no idea where anything was. The other problem that occurred a lot was too much chatter in the room, and the remote person couldn't get a word in on the speakers. And if they were dispatching, then it was very hard to give instructions because people were having conversations in the room.
I think to some extent that's possibly still a problem and more of a people problem than a technical problem. But yes, absolutely. That's always been a problem with that stuff. I mean, one of the ways we try to improve things there, because obviously the trains make noise as well. They make quite a lot of noise, particularly the trains that have got noise built into them. And of course, they can make a bit of a racket. And while your ears, if you're in the room, can sort of pick out people speaking, the microphone tends to just end up being just a bunch of noise, is all you end up hearing at the other end. So one of the things we did to try and improve that was install a better microphone in the middle of the room, so that we can actually pick out the noise better. And it's actually sensitive enough that you can speak. I think a couple of times, John, you've been in the underground Ernie slot and you can just talk comfortably, can't you? And the microphone can pick you up.
Yes. And more importantly, the microphone is sensitive enough to pick up the sound of points changing.
Yeah.
So if you're being a remote dispatcher and there's nobody else in the room or only one or two, as you set the route, you can hear the points clicking into place.
Very, very limited, actually. One of the first and primary options was that we can't get together anymore, so potentially mothballing the layout. But quite frankly, that wasn't an option I was prepared to accept. And I know you and I and John spoke at length about how we could actually set it up so that other people could remotely connect to it and drive trains. And initially we had 2 servers and my laptop, each with a camera on it. But given my limited bandwidth, that was about it. The latency, if you tried to use more cameras, was just too much.
There's a lot of underground in this layout, isn't there? There's a lot of hidden area.
In 3 levels.
Yeah, so if you can't see what's going on in the underground, you're basically limited to one train going round in a loop, aren't you?
Basically. Yeah. Initially, we had to have the situation where I am the only person present, and I was basically acting as the 060 shunter and the yard minder, effectively, on the underground. A train would come in, and I would simply watch until it got to the point where I needed it to stop, and I would simply say, "Stop!"
So in order to go fully remote, we need to solve the problem with the cameras. And we need to get everybody driving. Now, we kind of had everybody driving already. Fortunately, and we're really fortunate in this, that has always been a fundamental part of the layout's design. Even if it wasn't something we were taking advantage of as much, the layout's always been operable remotely. Initially, we used Zoom and many PCs sending their camera feeds. But again, with the way that the bandwidth worked, this meant we could go from 2 cameras to, say, 4. Which was better than it was previously. So, I mean, what was it like driving remotely with the 4 cameras, John?
It was a challenge because there were areas where you literally had to wait for the train to appear in the next camera. You'd seen it go through the field of view of one, and you had to wait 10 seconds before it would pop up in the next one.
Yes. Yeah,
and in that 10 seconds, you have to keep a listen out in case there's a crunch.
So we're now we switched from Zoom to Discord for various reasons, and we're using some clever camera tech called NDI, which stands for Network Display Interface, and you can get that on newtech.com. It's free, and that allows us to stream currently 8 cameras, as was mentioned earlier on, in real time at something like 30 frames a second. So this is incredibly watchable, and using some other stuff like OBS, we're able to combine all those 8 cameras down to only use the bandwidth of 2, and still remain having a good quality picture. So, I mean, this weekend we've been having our first operating session with the sort of the latest upgrades in the various tech in place. John, again, as the most experienced remote operator, talk us through how it's better, how it's different.
Oh, you've got continuity of pictures. Literally, most trains are only out of your vision now for 2 or 3 seconds at the most between cameras. And it gives you that much more flexibility as well with the underground. When you're trying to stop, you don't need someone there to spot you into position. You can see it on the camera.
With all the other cameras, I think we've had you running around the layout a lot less this weekend, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It's
very much so.
I think there's more confidence to actually drive the trains into areas of out of vision and back in, while others are doing the same. So you get a bigger confidence in it.
I think this weekend we've been going a bit crazy, to be honest. We've been flying trains all over the layout and bringing them out of hidden areas and putting them back in, and it actually seems to have gone remarkably well. You've had the odd train derailed, / on the floor, / all sorts of things.
The crashes aren't as frequent now.
No, they're not. But when you compare it to when we're actually in person, are we crashing trains or, having incidents? Let's call it having incidents. Are there more incidents now than when we were in person? What do you think? What do each of you say?
No, there's less. When you're on the cameras and you're remote, you're spending a lot more attention to what you're trying to do.
Very much. I quite agree with that, because certainly with me sitting here trying to drive as well as acting as the 050 shunter and the pick up off the floor job, I tend to lose concentration occasionally, and I'm the one that causes most of the crashes.
You see, folks, you heard it here. It's not me all the time. Only the other half, essentially.
You can blame me.
That's the end result, but how does it actually work? You start with the train on the track. The track is connected to a Lentz DCC command station, and all locomotive control is conducted through that DCC system. Points and signals are connected to a bespoke system developed by Peter Peddlesden for the railway, which is powered by Pickaxe microcomputers. There are around 40 of these dotted around the underside of the layout, all talking to each other via a master control box. There are 2 tiny Raspberry Pi computers, each running the Linux operating system. One of them simply controls various remote main switches, allowing the room lights and all the power systems for the layout to be remotely controlled. The other connects to the DCC system, the point and signal control box, and a huge range of lights dotted around the layout, and forms the central hardware for controlling the layout. Running on the layout computer is some custom software called Rail Director, which presents access to all the various hardware systems on the layout via a single simple network interface, allowing other PCs to connect and issue commands. A Rail Director client runs on any PC that wishes to control trains or points, and is able to have full control of the layout in this way. Using a virtual private network, or VPN, anyone, anywhere in the world who has been given access is able to connect and use the layout just the same as if they were right next to it.
You made an observation today while we were running that we've got lots of cameras. There's one person who can't see them.
That's me. I would just see everything, which at the moment I don't.
You can help everybody else park their trains up, but everybody else can now park their own trains up. It
Now
kind
they've
of
got
you
all
need
the
us to help
cameras.
you park your trains now. It's kind of the
Basically.
tables have turned a bit.
Yes, very much
Unless
so.
you want to go play monkeying around the layout again, you kind of need us to tell you when to stop. Or if
Yes.
you want to say what's in level 0, you can't see on the camera. You've got to go and look. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I know that we're looking at is actually putting a TV on the wall so that you can actually see the cameras that everybody else is seeing and get the benefit of those, which is kind of like a surprise benefit, really, that we weren't expecting of. Was just like having built this stuff around solving the problem of remote, actually we've made it better for everybody, even if you're in the room as well.
It would be better, much better, definitely.
Something else that we do quite a lot is we stream the layout on Twitch, and which means that it's, we might have a group of 15 people operating the layout and chatting by voice. But actually, when we're streaming on Twitch, it means that we're opening it out to a wider group of people, sometimes 100 people at a time, on the Twitch channel. Just either enjoying watching the cameras, chatting with us on the text, or even saying, "Can we see a steam engine? Can we see a HST? And I want to see something modern." And so we can, bring that in there. So which I guess brings it in so that we've actually got a much wider participation than just even the people that are in the shed or the people that are actually acting remotely. There's then a third group of people that are enjoying and engaging with the layout, even from afar.
There is one thing we're good at, making an exhibition of ourselves.
We're the best, John.
Absolutely.
We've been trying for how many years? Definitely full control. It allows people to operate it as a group and being a part of a team, and also you can operate it individually on your own. Since we've got the cameras and stuff, it's stepped the game up very much so.
I think at this point, with the way that we've moved things and advanced the whole layout, it boils down to us now just learning how to communicate properly. It's become really apparent over the last several operating sessions since we've relied on everyone being remotely, running remote, that there are loose terms. The English language is a very loose thing, and it's very easy to say one thing and mean something else. Like, you're routed you're routed to the station, and then there's an accident happens moments later because I thought you meant I was routed through the station. And so we have to be very clear about what that means. And similarly, okay, you're clear to leave the station, and runs out and rams into the back of another train. Well, you said I was clear. There's clarity of language that we've seriously needed to up our game on, and still need to up our game on. Yes,
there's a bit more to that, Matt, and that is that one is that when you're doing it remote, you slowed down. Everybody's slowed down, and the other one is that you've got the ability to look at the dispatcher, i.e., the panels, and see where the condition of the track ahead is. So you've got a lot more than when you're physically in the room. Because if you stand in the wells, you can't see the panels.
No, you can't see the dispatcher panel at all if you're in the layout. That's one of the things that I can't see where I am, sitting in the layout as the 050 shunter and collect the rubbish off the floor.
Yeah.
I can't see the dispatcher panel. All I can see is the physical layout. Going forward, what I'd like to think is that we can keep the team building going and advance the layout to the point where anybody remotely can operate it, anybody locally can see exactly what's going on, a la the big TV on the wall, etc. We've also got the camera train to finish. That's another project that I'm currently working with.
We've talked a lot about operating trains on weekends and the workshop. The other thing is that it is as much a social occasion and meeting up with friends.
Yes,
If
very much.
if there are too many people in the shed, then you can go and sit in the garden and talk about trades, talk about computers, talk about anything you want.
Yep.
in fact, at one point we actually, I think there were 2 or 3 weekends when some of the people who came along actually brought some garden railway stuff, and we set out a garden railway with live steam engines running around in the garden. It's not just about the one big layout, is it? When we get together, we can kind of it's about just enjoying trains. Sometimes someone will be watching a train video in the living room, and it'll be, or playing train sim or something like that, and others will be out in the layout. But it's, as you say, it's an incredibly social event, isn't it, for all of us?
Very much so.
Yes, especially the English breakfast in the cafe.
I do miss the Egg Express. I've got to say that. We haven't done the Egg Express.
No, the Easter egg train, and the Great Heist.
The Great Heist.
The arm that came out.
Yeah. He's pictured with a wanted individual.
Absolutely.
The highlight of the social activities at the weekend is the excellent roast dinner.
Yeah, that is an important point. Is that Peter and Christine do put on the catering, which is a massive undertaking, particularly if you end up with 10 of us all there in one session. That's a major undertaking.
Through the use of a range of readily available systems, the Onehouse Model Railway has not only kept operating while everyone has been remote, but has improved their whole approach and made the layout more accessible overall. The end result is that this group of enthusiasts have been able to continue to enjoy their hobby together, operating the railway and sharing their thoughts and ideas as if they were in the same room. If you'd like to get in touch to find out more about what we've done, you can email us at the address shown on screen now. We're more than happy to help. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this glimpse into the Onehouse Model Railway and the clips of it in operation remotely. You can find out more from us on YouTube and join in our live streaming sessions on Twitch at the addresses on screen now.